I've just been checking out all this stuff about the bombs and the conspiracy theories from the right wing that it was, you know, it's a false flag attack and the Democrats have sent these bombs to themselves and, you know, it's all fake news and they've done it just at this time that this caravan's heading towards America. I mean, and then on the other side, you know, you could equally say, well, who organised this sudden thousands of people heading towards the borders of America just as the midterm elections are about to take place, and Trump's immediately there warning everybody that, you know, America's under attack from these impoverished people who are fleeing terror and abject poverty from their homelands. Okay, so, which incidentally is largely caused by America and the type of regimes that they have consistently supported to be controlling South America, which are so repressive and so cruel that hordes of people are constantly struggling to to migrate to America if their home countries were not so oppressive and had more to offer them as human beings, more to offer their children, then doubtless there wouldn't be thousands of immigrants trying to get into from South America trying to get into America each year. But America doesn't think in terms of rationality and logic, it seems. It thinks in terms of its dogma, okay? And that is what this is all about, dogma. That is what America is about, dogma. Either left-wing dogma or right-wing dogma, and it seems that anything that falls between the two in terms of human common sense, which, I'm sorry, you can't politicise intelligence, okay? You just can't. You can't politicise logic and rationality, you know? Once you start doing that, that's it. There is no intelligence. You've got dogma. You've got people whose vested interests rely on sticking with this dogma, or people whose vested interests rely on fitting with that dogma. And, you know, when you're looking at this, say, far-right extremist dogma, you've got a long, long tradition that supports that dogma. That dogma goes back centuries, doesn't it? It goes back to slavery, it goes back to women with no rights, children with no rights, you know, a time when there was no social care, or no minimum wage. You see, a dogma of freedom to do whatever you like, might equals right to do as thy will, survival of the fittest. That's the dogma. And that is, you know, I've heard people describing Trump supporters as very emotional people, and that's what they ride on, emotions. I'm sorry, the emotions, they're not real emotions, because they are directly aligned to a dogma that really has no place in any true sense of human being. You know, the kind of humanity that Jesus promoted, the kind of humanity that Jesus exemplified, that, you know, welcomes the stranger, that reaches out, recognises the human in the stranger, who helps the poor, who helps the sick, heals the sick, feeds the poor, condemns the usurers, condemns the oppressors. So how these far-right extremists can call themselves Christian, it's really like, no, they are Christian in as much as they cling to an antiquated dogma about what Christianity is, about who Jesus was. An antiquated dogma coming from a time when the majority of people could barely even read, let alone understand the Bible, which was written by Middle Eastern people from a Middle Eastern culture. And then you've got these people who've emigrated from all over Europe half of them don't even understand their own Christianity. They listen to what the church says, you know. I mean, I've read the Bible. I cannot find one single place where Jesus condemns gay people. Okay? Or where he condemns women terminating an unwanted pregnancy. I can't find anything. He does refer to the little children that are actually born and in the world. He says, you people must suffer the needs of these little children if you are going to come to me. Before you get to me, you will only get to me if you're prepared to suffer the needs of these little children. Suffer the little children. That doesn't mean that the little children are supposed to suffer. People who'd interpret it like that, I'm sorry, you've totally twisted. Because basically what you're saying is that Jesus said, make the children suffer. You make the children suffer and then you can come to me. That is a twisted interpretation, isn't it? And when you look at it like that, you think, yeah, it's no wonder Christians were there all battering the kids and treating them so cruelly. Because they've got this twisted dogma about the interpretations. Beating the children. It is dogma, and dogma inspires an emotion, but it's not a true solid human emotion because it's not coming from any intelligence, from any correct understanding of what is inspiring the emotions. So people are basically clinging to their rights to be able to discriminate against people, judge people, deny rights and power to certain people, to hate. Freedom to hate, that's what they want. Freedom to hate. And that's why these people love Trump's hate, because that is all he gives them. Hate. So what else can they love about him except his hate? And that is the freedom that he's giving them. Hate. I will pay your legal fees, he says to the people. Go and punch them in the face. I'll pay you legal fees. Well, has anybody held him to it? I wonder if these Proud Boys are going to hold him to it now, who are all being arrested. Because, you know, their president has told them he will pay their legal fees. Go and punch these people in the face. That's a fact. Those Proud Boys really need to sue their president if he refuses now to pay their legal fees. Because he said to them, go and do it, go and punch people, go and kick them, body slam them. So how can these Proud Boys be being arrested and standing on trial? What, and President Trump's not going to be paying their legal fees? This is the kind of mad, mad world that we are living in. And that these people now can turn around, no matter what's happened. No, these bombs weren't a terrorist threat. If they'd have been sent by a Muslim, it would have been, the whole nation would have been on high terror alert shutdown. But, oh, they've been sent by a Republican. Oh, but actually not really a Republican, because that's all fake news. So either way, it's either fake news, but still, they're not called terrorists. Even the people that accept that, alright, this guy is a fanatical Trump supporter, he's took Trump at his word, and he sent nail bombs to these people, and it's like, oh, no, he isn't a terrorist. He isn't being charged for an act of terrorism. That is an act of terrorism to send nail bombs to prominent people in government and the media. That's an act of terrorism. Because these are the people that are part of the official running of America. So that's a terrorist attack. That's a terrorist attack. How can it not be a terrorist attack? You see, nobody's asking, nobody's really talking about that question. Now, this man, I've got so much respect for him. I've got so much love in my heart for him. I feel so just so sad, you know, from day one when I've listened to this father talk about his son and the love that he felt. You know, I mean, he and his wife, they parents raised their son. They are true American citizens. You know, he's not a fanatic. He's not a crazy person. He isn't an extremist. I don't know which political party he supports. Probably none. If I was him, I wouldn't support any of them, because they've all let him down. The whole of the media has let this man down. He and other families of the victims of 9/11 have been asking very reasonable questions based on solid evidence. And he's been ignored, and he's been ridiculed even. But the questions that he's asking are reasonable questions that architects and engineers are asking, that pilots are asking, that professional demolition experts are asking. You know, it isn't like these questions have just sprung up from some mad fanatical organisation. Yes, we know Alex Jones vamped on the issue, as many others of his ilk did. You know, President Trump even, he'd blithely refer to 9/11. But where's his talk about 9/11 now? Oh, now he's got into power. Because these people, they will use any aspect of the truth they can, throw it out there to get themselves votes. But at the end of the day, that's as far as their interest in the truth goes, is how whatever truth can serve their interest at whatever given time, and then that truth can be just put on a back shelf. But the fact is, what the questions this man is asking and the evidence that forms the foundation for him asking those questions really does expose internal tyranny that's been happening in America. And what would you expect in internal tyranny to deliver, except the kind of president and administration as Trump's, who goes out there just telling outright lies to people. You know, I was watching something the other night, one video with one right-wing evangelist telling people that literally, you know, if the Democrats win the midterm elections and if they get back in power, you know, they're going to be burning the churches down because socialists don't like Jesus. Socialists hate Jesus. Well, I would really like Republicans to show me one element of Jesus that really they follow, because, you know, they're discriminatory, they're racist, they're sexist, they want to beat their children, they don't want welfare, they don't want social security, they don't want Medicare, they don't want people to have a minimum wage, they don't want people to have a living wage, they don't think people have a right to a home. In fact, they don't like human rights that Jesus fundamentally upheld. Jesus was promoting the very concept of human rights before human rights had ever been written, and before there was any such thing as a UN. So things have got very, very far out of hand. And when the media has consistently told lies, and now these extremists are picking up and saying, oh, well, we can do whatever we like, and you're fake news. No, it is a lie. It's a false flag event. It's a false flag event. You know, they took it the other way and ran away with it now. And there's nothing you can convince these people, because the people on the ground, large portions of them, of Trump followers, they are genuinely confused. Can anybody blame them? Can anybody blame them? When the rational, reasonable questions were ignored, and instead off America went and murdered how many Iraqi people on the strength of a pack of lies, and even using depleted uranium weapons that is causing miscarriages and stillbirths and deformities for the children that are born. But you don't hear American Republicans and the far-right extremists, these Christians, complaining about that we're against abortion, but oh, we're horrified to discover that our Republican president actually is forcing abortions on women in the Middle East because they've created this wild conspiracy theory about 9/11 that ignores the facts, ignores the solid evidence. No, you don't hear them mention that. You see? You don't hear them mention, they aren't bothered about the children that are going to die because they're living in poverty in America, that aren't going to be receiving proper health care in America. They're not bothered about the children once they're born. They're only bothered about the children once they're inside, you know, before that child is actually born. Oh, yes. Now they want control of that woman's body. What right have they? What right has anybody in a country like America to tell a woman, you must bring a baby, especially an impoverished woman, you must bring that baby into this world, really? What? So they can end up in prison, earning money for some corporate factory owner? What opportunities then is there for this child? A child isn't just a body, a child is a consciousness. And it seems to me that it's all well and good, you know, for the Republicans to get all emotional on the hot air of their dogma. Because like I say, these aren't real emotions. True emotions are on our true humanity. When we're connected to our true humanity, when we're connected to our empathy and compassion, when we care about people, we get angry. When we care about the elderly, we are angry to witness the elderly being ill-treated. When we care about children, we are angry and upset and hurt to witness children being ill-treated, children being denied their rights. But if you're living on dogma, then the only time you're going to get upset and angry is when somebody's coming along and telling you, well, I'm sorry, no, your dogma is totally wrong, and what you're doing on the strength of it is committing a crime. Because you're giving yourself the right to batter children, saying, well, this is what God wants me to do. You're giving yourself the right to make children suffer because you believe that is what Jesus wants you to do. Because you're following the dogma. And now, like I say, sane, intelligent people, the families of the victims of 9/11, now that was a common thing, wasn't it? When people started asking some serious questions about the official, let's face it, conspiracy theory. When professional people were asking questions, oh, well, you're insulting the families of the victims to even suggest that. Oh, but then there's the families of the victims asking the same questions. But nobody wants to answer those questions. Nobody is taking them seriously. Imagine how this father feels, that not only has he lost his son in such horrific terror attack, but he's also lost faith. He's lost faith in the media. And now he's been even more injured, isn't he, to watch his country falling apart under this level of extremism that is actually feeding off the very injury that actually he sustained. A media that attacked him because the media has ignored his questions, and now that same consciousness, the Republicans who were in power when 9/11 happened, the Republicans who took control of the whole event and situation and made out of it what they did, now they're back in control again. This time they've put Trump up to lead them, and now they're benefiting off the whole concept of fake news, when actually he's had to live it. He's had to live it, not only to lose his son, but to be told a blatant pack of lies. And like I say, is he a fanatical Trump supporter? No. And because you media and you politicians and professional people of America, you did not stand by him, and now you're all complaining because you've got Trump. Well, what did you expect? Where did you think this was going to go? And I am disgusted. I am disgusted, and it has broken my heart. It breaks my heart to, you know, to witness the good people beyond who aren't part of the media, who aren't part of the politicians and the big business corporate interests. The people who just try to get on with their lives, who try to live right, balanced, within balance and reason. And they were so abused. That was just so terrible. And now he's a victim as well, isn't he? He's a victim of the crime of ignorance, because ignorance is a crime. You know, make no mistake about it. That is what the heathen are, according to God's law, isn't it? The heathen are people who are ignorant. Okay? They ignore what they know. Forget this Babylonian interpretation, again, the dogmatic interpretation of ignorant as including not knowing. There is absolutely no way on this earth that the word ignorance and ignorant can include not knowing, because the core component of that word, the active component, is the act of ignoring. And in order to ignore something, you have to know it is happening. You have to know about it in order to ignore it. That's the core verb, isn't it, of both words. So therefore, to suggest that ignorance and ignorant can include not knowing is to totally corrupt the linguistic root of the word. So even the language is corrupted to the very core. But he knows. He has not ignored what he knows. But the press have ignored what he knows. Not just him. Thousands and millions of people throughout the world. We are not that stupid. It is literally, we are literally in the days where the emperor is stood on stage, stark naked, and the whole of the media and the whole world is admiring his clothes. That is how crazy it is. And so within that level of crazy, well, everybody could be walking around naked and saying, hey, what you on about? I'm dressed, I'm wearing the finest clothes imaginable. This suit was made in Savile Row. And anybody who says, I am not wearing a suit, you're fake news. Yeah, and that's how crazy it has become. And you are to blame, American media, because JFK said, you know, you are the eyes and ears and voice and conscience of the people who are busy working hard, who haven't got the time to go into the ins and outs of everything. And you, the media, you are paid, supposed to do that job, and you did not do it. You slapped this man this grieving man in the face, and the widows and the families of the victims. You slapped them in the face. You gave them a kick in the guts by just blankly refusing to ask the relevant questions, and instead all you could do was pour scorn, pour scorn, pour scorn. And now you exact same people are all like expressing alarm and scorn, pouring scorn on Trump supporters who are refusing to accept the evidence of this mail bomber now. Well, we've shown them the facts, you know, and yet even in face of the evidence, they're just They just refuse to accept it. How do you talk to these people? Well, how do you think he's feeling about that same media that's asking these questions about Trump supporters now? How do you think this man is feeling? How long has he waited? And that's why what America needs to do now, it's a waste of time trying to stand against Trump supporters, this Antifa stuff. Forget it. Stand up for your human rights. Stand by sense and sanity. Stand by this man. Stand by reality. Stand up for something. All this railing against, what is it achieving? It's just participating in the black and white wars, and that's what they want. That's what they thrive on. Division, war. Until people stand up for something. When you're standing up for your rights, when you're standing up for the truth, for facts and evidence, when you are demanding justice, when you are demanding that the law is seen to be done, that the law is actually serving intelligence, not dogma, not dogma, not the emotions of dogma, but the true emotions of real living human beings who are operating on a level of intelligence. The thoughts that feed their emotion are derived from facts, solid facts and evidence. And he's not gone crazy, has he? He hasn't gone around sending mail bombs to any of the news offices that have just totally ignored the reality, the facts and evidence. He has tried his best. He to share what he understands, to alert other people, not to radicalise them, to get them to go attacking anybody, but for them to stand up for justice, for them to demand arrest of the real criminals, for them to demand a real investigation. So anyway, that's all I've got to say. I am concerned about America at the moment, and I fear if somebody somewhere doesn't start addressing the real underlying issues here, which, as I say, internal tyranny from 9/11 onwards, things are just going to get worse and worse, and you're heading down a route to civil war, especially when you've got evangelical preachers telling people that socialists hate Jesus and they're going to all burn the churches down. I'm sorry, this is just got way out of hand. And you know, we've had these right-wing extremists training rifles, guns, snipers from rooftops on crowds protesting against fascism. And like I say, Antifa, I understand, I am sympathetic with your cause, but really standing against the far-right extremists, you are playing right into their hands. You need to stand up for your rights. Stand up for this man's right to justice. Thank you.